Today, let's talk about purpose and values. Did you know that your life can be more fulfilling when it's purposeful? When you know your why and you're able to align your day-to-day behaviors with your values. What are values? Values are beliefs on what's important to you in life. They're the principles that you stand for.
Purpose is definitely like your why. It tends to be the thing that is lacking in people's lives.
Today's episode is on purpose and values. And I have a wonderful guest with me, Amanda or Mandy. She is a writer, artist, creator, business and life coach. She helps people align with their gifts so they can find their truth and create a life they love. So I'll be asking her three key questions. What is the concept of purpose and values? Why they are important? How they can be applied? And lastly, what is one thing that you would like to leave you with as next steps? Mandy, welcome. You and I have done a session as part of our 12-week program where you focused on values. But I think in this podcast, it would be wonderful for you to share with us what is this concept? Where did you learn about it? And why is it important?
Definitely. I love sharing this stuff because it makes such a big difference in people's lives. I know it made a huge difference in my life when I first started getting into the concept of purpose and then using values to help me get more aligned with my purpose. So yes, I love this topic. Thanks for having me here. Purpose is definitely like your why. Whenever I sit with someone and have this conversation, it generally starts off, kind of like broad, and then we go deep because it does take a little bit of time, to get into your purpose. It tends to be the thing that is lacking in people's lives. A lot of times they'll come to me because they feel like there's no meaning in their life or things are just kind of becoming mundane. And so they really are starting to maybe feel stressed or a little bit of anxiety or depressed because they don't know what to do, with their lives, and they want to have that meaning and for it to feel good, for them. And so, yeah, purpose is basically your why. It's why you're here on earth. And I think a lot of us, you're lucky if you, at some point in your path, you discover that. I think it can feel kind of elusive, to people. We want to pinpoint it as like one thing. And it does change over time. And usually it changes because you evolve and you grow. So, when you first start out, you end up maybe not being so aware, in your life, and you're just kind of going through the motions. Maybe you're doing things because your parents tell you to do them a certain way, or your, society tells you to do it a certain way. And so, yeah, at some point you start to kind of become aware that things don't feel so good, to you. And so, yeah, you want to discover, how that can shift or change. And so then a lot of times people hear that word purpose and they think, maybe this is something, that can help me. And so generally something I'll have them do is look at their values. And values are the things that really matter to you. So if you are, the reason I have them do that is because if you're able to take your values, the things that really matter to you or important to you or bring you joy, if you're able to combine that with, your calling, your naggings, the things that are coming up for you or goals, that you want to have for yourself, when you combine them, then that often will help you see your purpose. It will help reveal it, to you. it will make it more clear for you. And once you kind of have that light bulb moment, you can, you can write it down, kind of keep it with you. So yeah, that's generally the activity I'll have them do, when they're trying to discover their purpose.
Yeah, I can relate to so many of things that you said. I think the first one I'll say is that often when people are searching, I had once read that spirituality starts with a question. And the
Yeah.
questions can be different, but when you feel like something is missing, or
Mm.
the
Yep.
four soul questions: why am I here? Who am I? What do I need to do? And in the Deepak Chopra's transformational coaching program that I did, where it's connected to Ayurveda and some of the Indian concepts, the word dharma is used. Dharma is, and the way they put
Yes.
it is, there's two kinds of dharma. One is, dharma that's same for all of us, right? It's the altruistic, aspirational, but then the other is, what do you do day to day?
Yes.
Uh, Once I'd heard these two quotes also related that, to what you said, knowing your life purpose is the first step toward living a truly conscious life. And another one I
Mhm.
had come across was, a life purpose provides us with a clear goal, a set finish line that you truly want to reach. So in those ways, when I've done both of these exercises, the values, yeah, I think it's quite common in the coaching practices. I've done that, and like you said, finding your why can really help be the North Star. And sometimes we know it, but it's not that clear. I remember the first time I did the purpose exercise. It was just so good to have it in words that I
Mhm.
sort of knew, right? But to have it clear, and then it became a North Star. So with that,
Yeah.
love for you to share, how can this concept be applied? I know in some of the services you provide, and few places where you saw that this really made a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I said, people tend to come to me, when they feel kind of lost, and down about that. And so, yeah, to apply it, you can do different activities to figure out, what your values are, and then what your purpose is. And then once you know that, the way to apply it is to take actions that are aligned, for you. And I think that may be the second part, where people get a little bit hung up, which we'll talk about, next. But yeah, it kind of gives you your direction, like you said, your North Star. Sometimes I say your compass, your direction. It helps you to know how to respond in life. So if you, are questioning, like, how should I be eating right now? And maybe a top value for you is health, right? Or well-being. Then you know how to respond, so then it helps you set up your goals for you. So that's definitely one way you can apply it. It also shows you how to spend your time. And I know, in our busy days, our busy schedules, a lot of times it can be something that we kind of push to the side. A lot of the people that come to me, they come because they're lacking in self-care. They're really not aligning to the values, and they don't know their purpose. So they don't really know how to spend their time. They're just kind of going through life, going through the motions. That was my case. So to give you an example, when I got out of college, I had started my own small business. It was a balloon company. It grew into a balloon and helium supply company, and it took off. My husband and I started doing deliveries all over all over Southern California. And we were just fulfilling orders, and I was just in the office every day taking phone calls. And Of course, my own natural skills and abilities were present. What's funny is a lot of times, when people come to me and they're kind of lost, that is something that we'll talk about. And so for me, I noticed, when I was on phone calls with people, it was easy for me to help them get what they needed and what they wanted. They didn't feel like I was selling them because I was just naturally talking to them and trying to help them. And if I couldn't help them, I directed them to where they needed to go. So here I was coaching, people pretty much back then. But it wasn't really getting used in that way, and you can do this in your job, in any kind of job that you have. Your natural skills and gifts will generally shine and show. But you may feel like something's kind of off. And so that's what was happening for me. I started to feel really burnt out in the work that I was doing. I wasn't very lit up by it. Sure, I was making a lot of money. Business was very successful, right? And this is where sometimes people can confuse, things like their purpose. They think that means I need to make a lot of money, or something. And that's not always the case. You'll feel on purpose, and sometimes that it doesn't mean you're making tons of money, but that can be a part of it if that is a value, for you. But for me, it was more about, I wasn't really feeling connected, to my spirit, to my soul. That was lacking. Energy and things like these kinds of words that, I was suddenly not really feeling that aligned in the business that I had. It felt very strategic and, like task oriented. So, yeah, I ended up hearing that I needed to go do meditation and belly dance of all things. And I kept pushing it to the side. I kept overworking. And at some point, enough was enough for me. And I went to a meditation class. And that kind of opened the door for me because it allowed me to go within and ask myself, some really important questions and sit and hear those answers, come through. And at some point, I started realizing that life I was living was not a match for me. And so I actually did a values exercise. I had found one similar to the one that we did together for the program. And it just blew my mind. It blew me away, that some of the things that came up for me for values were really not present in my everyday life at all. So I started making some small changes, and some of that had to do with self-care. I was not doing that at all. I was overworking myself, and it was really burning me out. So I ended up going to the belly dance class. That was part of my self-care. It was something for me to do for me that was fun and lighthearted. Smiling and fun was also in my values. So having that joy and laughter in my life was really key and important. So going to belly dance, again, it was this awkward thing. I kept telling myself, no, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But I went. I just showed up to the class and didn't know what I was doing, felt very intimidated. And the teacher was the perfect teacher. She just stood with me and told me, just move something, just move a hip, move a hand, move something. And I did. And then again, that movement slowly opened me up. It helped me to connect to my soul. And so one thing led to the next, and suddenly I started realizing how important this connection to my soul was. And I ended up getting into spiritual work. So I did end up selling the business and getting and diving in deep into spiritual work, getting teachers, and that became my path. And so now evolution has happened for me again and again. And to catch you up to now, I do help people who are maybe going through something similar, like, not feeling very connected in their soul, their lives aren't feeling very aligned. And because I have the business background, I tend to help people who are in business or maybe are working really hard and they're looking to align their lives and get their lives in more alignment. So I go through a lot of these processes with them, things that I went through using the same tools, things that were successful for me, and I help them get more clear on their purpose.
Okay, so Mandy, this brings us to our last question, which for you is, what is one thing you would like to say to someone who's now interested? You've intrigued them and they want to do the exercise, get started, or perhaps work with a coach like you.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I would highly encourage anyone who is struggling or just feeling very sad about, not knowing what their purpose is, or, just feeling a little bit lost or confused, especially when the new year comes. There's a lot of pressure, around the new year sometimes. Is to definitely reach out to someone and do this exercise. This program that you created, the New You program, is a great place to start. It's that free program people can go through, and we do that values exercise in that program. So they would have a chance to actually see what their own values are and go through that process. And yeah, then if you can get feedback from someone, that's always the best. If you're able to work with a coach or a friend, someone who's positive and can listen to you and give you good feedback on the words you're using and maybe where you sound like you might be a little bit challenged or stuck. Sometimes I can hear someone. So for example, I work with a client named Connie. I mentioned her in the program. And sometimes it's great to revisit and talk to someone like a coach, so that in Connie's case, she can get feedback on something where she feels stuck or challenged. And so she knows by now, working with me over and over again, when she hits that point, to just reach out to me so that we can do a refresh session. But it's also really good if you're just getting started, to sign up with someone to work with them for a little while. I worked with Connie for about 3 months at first, and then she actually worked for a little bit longer than that. And it was great for her to have that constant feedback week by week, so she could really start to see what words she was using over and over again, the fears that were coming up over and over again, so that she could kind of, nip those in the bud or continue to move forward past the fears, even though she had those fears come up. So that's what I would tell someone, that's looking to do this exercise, is to go ahead and give it a try. And then try to get some feedback, someone that you can talk to who would really help you, see what your values are. You could talk with them about each of the values a little more openly and see what things come up for you and get some questions going, so that you can really see, these are the things that I would really love to work on this year. And then you can sometimes pick out, one theme or one real strong thing that comes to the surface as your favorite thing. And that can be the thing. Then you feel really motivated once you've got that nailed down, and you can move forward for the year.
Thank you, Mandy. So you mentioned again the program that we are running. It's 12-week program in which week 2, we focused on values, where Mandy walked us through doing the exercise. So those recordings are available if you'd like to just go through them. And then I can tell you personally that having done this exercise and having the clarity and in few lines, being clear on the words, things that I've always wanted to do, but see it in words, was an amazing experience. So definitely check that out, or you can reach out to Mandy. You can reach out to me. And what I would like to end you with is that, again, this wonderful quote: the purpose of life is to contribute in some way to make things better. So think of your legacy. Think of, years from now when you look back, or a weekend, you look back at the week, having that compass, as Mandy said, and knowing that you did something good and that brought you a smile, and you're leaving in a better place. So we hope this session helped you learn the importance of purpose and values, or knowing your why, as tools to help you live a fulfilled life. We would love to hear from you on your purpose, your values. Look out for a link below, or on reflectandrespond.com, purpose and values. We look to doing future sessions with other coaches and sharing some of what you wrote. May you be in high spirits, shift and sustain a positive mindset, and we will see you in a future podcast session. Thank you.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Maddie.